Hey guys, it's Chris. Today we are going to be talking about the most underrated product by the Boadicea lineup. Most people misunderstand Boadicea because they judge it by the house by its loudest bottles. That's not where the real story is. The real test of a luxury fragrance house is not how hard a scent hits, but it's more of how well it holds itself together after the novelty wears off. So today we're going to be talking about Imperial. Imperial is one of the clearest examples of that discipline, and that's why I consider it to be one of the most underrated bottles in the entire lineup. So as usual, this is for high-end fragrance collectors, but this logic also applies to anyone who is serious about fragrance, because at this level, you're not buying for excitement. You're buying for construction, projection, and the repeated wear. And the bottle that survives the long-term rotation is almost never the loudest one. And Imperial exists in that space. It doesn't compete for attention. It assumes authority. So within Boadicea the Victorious, Imperial functions as a reference point. It's not experimental and it's not maximal. It represents what the house looks like when restraint is applied deliberately. Many collectors skip past it because it doesn't announce itself as special immediately. That's exactly why it matters. This is a bottle you can evaluate over weeks and not minutes. And in a serious collection, Imperial becomes a benchmark for balance. So, Imperial is architectural in the truest sense. The structure is classical. You really have a controlled opening, a measured heart, a base that resolves instead of lingers aggressively. Nothing spikes, nothing collapses. You can feel the intentional spacing between the materials, which is difficult to achieve at this concentration without dulling the composition. So what separates Imperial from many modern luxury releases is that it does not rely on saturation to signal quality. The quality is in the proportions. It behaves like something finished, not something engineered for reaction. So on the skin, Imperial reads calm and authoritative. Polished woods, restrained spice, and a smooth resinous warmth that never turns sweet or abrasive. It smells composed, it smells expensive without trying to impress. And if you strip it down to one sentence, Imperial smells like quiet power worn correctly. So let's talk about the evolution on the skin and why the time matters. Imperial improves as it wears. The opening does not overwhelm, which means the mid and base phases are allowed to breathe. Over several hours, the fragrance becomes smoother, warmer, and more integrated. There's no sharp drop off, no fatigue point, and that progression is intentional and rare. And this is where many louder fragrances lose ground. They peak early and spend the rest of the wear trying to hold on. So Imperial excels in fall and winter, but its restraint makes it year-round in controlled environments, offices, formal events, dinners, evenings where presence matters more than projection. It works best when you are close enough to be noticed by the right people. And this is not a room filler, it's a proximity fragrance designed for judgment, not applause. Now, let's talk about elaborate, because the comparison matters between the two of them. Elaborate is built for immediacy, dense musk, saturation, and force. It announces itself clearly and quickly, and that design choice explains its popularity. It performs well in short encounters and first impressions, but intensity is not the same as depth. Over time, Elaborate can feel one-dimensional because the experience is front-loaded. The artistry is there, but is overshadowed by volume, and the fragrance is doing too much of the talking for you. So from a collector standpoint, the difference is abundantly clear. Imperial prioritizes balance, progression, and longevity of appeal. It rewards repeated wear and familiarity. Elaborate prioritizes impact, projection, and instant recognition. So in practical terms, for the artistry, Imperial is discipline over excess. The wearability for Imperial is significantly broader. The long-term satisfaction is obviously Imperial, and the immediate wow factor is going to be Elaborate by far. Elaborate impresses quickly, Imperial endures quietly. So let's talk about the price versus the value and why Imperial is misunderstood. Imperial is undervalued because it doesn't generate hype. It doesn't dominate social media clips or quick reactions. But if you measure value as cost per wear, adaptability, and how often it earns rotation, Imperial outperforms many louder bottles at similar or higher prices. This is the fragrance that stabilizes the collection. It gives everything else context. Now, one thing that I want you to remember is that collectors often choose intensity early in their journey. I was subject to this as well. Over time, the pendulum swings. What survives is balance. Imperial sits on the far side of that curve. It doesn't need rotation. It doesn't need explanation. It simply works. And that is why experienced collectors come back to it, even if they ignored it initially. So Imperial is for someone who values composure over spectacle, someone who wants a fragrance that supports presence rather than replaces it. If your collection already includes statement pieces, Imperial becomes the bottle you reach for when you don't want the fragrance to speak louder than you do. So if elaborate represents modern luxury excess, Imperial represents classical authority. One is about presence in the moment, the other is about performance over time. Imperial isn't underrated because it lacks impact. It's underrated because it doesn't demand attention. And serious collectors mistake that for simplicity. And if you guys want, I can build a follow-up video comparing Imperial directly to Niemer and Chariot as a trilogy. Those also work at very underrated levels. And I think it was harder for me to choose Imperial just because of those two. But Imperial wins because of the price factor and the fact that it is misunderstood by collectors for not a projectile dominance. And it really is one of those bottles that you can just reach for whenever and will always be a room pleaser no matter what. So guys, I just want to make clear at the end that this is not the 2014 limited edition Imperial. This is the most recent Imperial that was up to date on their site. This is a beautiful bottle either way. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below, and let's keep the conversation rolling. I will be back at it tomorrow with another video, and I will see you then. See ya.